Cayman moon,
the voice of the Cayman Islands, Radio Cayman.
shining down from above.
We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. For the record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
For the record. For the record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to For the Record. I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year, Happy 2019 to everyone. Trust that everyone had an enjoyable holiday, Christmas, as well as celebrating the arrival of the new year. I'm sure that lots of people have made resolutions. Some will be kept, some will not be kept. And if you're blessed enough to see 2020, then you'll probably make those resolutions again. But I'm trusting that in your resolutions, the resolutions that you have made, that you have committed to being more tolerant, more compassionate, more caring, especially for those who are more vulnerable, the most vulnerable in our society, that you're going to be patient on the roads, loving your neighbor as yourself. Come to think of it, I was watching television last night, and one of the legislators in the United States spoke about the fact that their power and what they have derived comes from their Constitution, and it comes also from God. But yet we have written constitutions that sometimes have those things that the Lord has commanded us to do, but we don't necessarily do them, and maybe not all of them are enshrined in our Constitution as well. So my thought was, why shouldn't we not take the 10 commandments as our Constitution for all of us? The Constitution, the 10 commandments, and we know, what those 10 commandments say. I won't go through all of them at this point in time, but if things get pretty quiet on here and we don't get a whole lot of phone calls this morning, I may include that as well. But yes, the constitutions we have, they're all written by man, but we have our 10 commandments that were handed down to Moses by the Lord, by God. And those should be our guiding principles, not those that have been made by man. So if we follow those, more compassion, more understanding, more caring, more giving to the needy, I am quite certain, trust me, you will have a wonderful, wonderful 2019 if you do that. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands. And they are busy this morning. The roads are wet in some areas, so you want to be extremely careful. And we may have already had a few fender benders this morning as well, so you want to be extremely careful as well. So as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, we want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman. I want to remind you also, I need not remind you, that For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and they play out in the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Normally, it is that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flow. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, you can email us at For The Record. That is one word, For The Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. So if you've noticed, for the year 2019, our phone numbers have not changed at all. My voice, I don't think it has changed any. I may have sounded a little bit rusty this morning at the start, and that is simply because, being off the show for more than 2 weeks, but I did, of course, continue to listen to Radio Cayman using their app, the Radio Cayman app, and I listened every day to your favorite and my favorite radio station, Radio Cayman, as well. So I did follow that, but I will soon be back in stride in terms of what we will be discussing, things to discuss. So many things to discuss. This morning would have normally been the day that we would have had the official opposition with us. Of course, there may have been some scheduling issues, some uncertainty as to when the show would resume. So we don't have members of the opposition on here this morning. But if they're around, they're certainly free to call in and express their views. I'm really interested to hear from you, our listening and our viewing audience, in terms of what you are looking forward to in the new year, the year 2019. Some of the things that you would like to see happen in the Cayman Islands. For some, transitioning from 2018 to 2019 is almost seamless, simply because while we make a big fuss about Christmas and we make a big fuss about the new year, if you have had health issues in 2018 up until the end of that period of time, chances are they're continuing on into 2019. So for some people, it is a seamless transition, going from one year to the other. But I want to hear from you in terms of what you anticipate, what you're looking forward to in 2019, what you've committed yourselves to. I know what I would like to see. I would like to see more unity in the Cayman Islands. There, of course, will be issues that will continue to divide us, issues like the development of the port. But at the same time, we should be able to discuss those as mature adults, hopefully be in a position to compromise when compromise is necessary. And at the end of the day, we're all working towards the betterment and towards what is good for the Cayman Islands. Speaking of the Cayman Islands, no matter how long or how short you go off from the Cayman Islands, if you really, really love and appreciate this little rock, after a few days, after a few weeks, you're itching to come back, to get back home. And that was the case with me as well. Wonderful opportunity to spend time with family and with friends, to enjoy the festive season. I took the opportunity to get a lot of rest as well. And, of course, where I was, the weather was not all that favorable for what I like to do, which is get on my bicycle and ride. when the temperatures weren't in the 30s, in the 40s, it was a lot of rain. And of course, when you're in mountainous terrain, it is extremely dangerous to ride on the roads when it is wet. As a matter of fact, most of my cycling friends do not like to ride during or after a shower as well, because of the dangers associated with it. So certainly unable to get as much cycling in as I would like to, but I looked at it from a positive standpoint, and it enabled me to get lots of rest, because I did put in a lot of miles during 2018, and it allowed me to get some quality rest, at the same time to read newspapers online, to keep abreast of all of the things that were happening internationally as well as here in the Cayman Islands. And like I said, so many things happening. Some of the glaring figures that we have seen. One instance, I think we had 31 recorded traffic accidents in 3 days, an average of 10, little over 10 per day. That is extremely worrisome. But at the same time, drivers in the Cayman Islands are so lucky. With all of those accidents, no fatalities. Areas in some areas in the world, I was in South Carolina, Greenville, South Carolina, and you read or you see on the television news, drivers running off the road, hitting a tree, deceased. Here in the Cayman Islands, you look at the condition of some of those cars that are involved in accidents, and I have to say that we are truly blessed here, that we do not see more road fatalities than we actually see when you look at the condition of the cars, the vehicles, after an accident as well. Seems as if the police did quite a good job during the holiday season as well. It also appears as if the night after, or the night of New Year's, in the following morning, less and less arrests for DUI as well. That is a very good sign. I remember in the 80s, after the holidays, you drove on the road and you could see a string of vehicles just wrecked along the roadsides. So things have changed in that area. While I'm on the subject of road conditions, traffic as well, I know that there are those of us who hold the position that we cannot continue to build more roads to accommodate the increasing number of vehicles that are being brought on the island. So we seriously have to consider other alternatives in terms of how we control traffic in the Cayman Islands. We simply have to do that. Do we have to look at restrictions on those persons who are transient here in the Cayman Islands, who are here on work permits with no guarantee that they will be able to stay for any extended period of time, whether or not we should allow them to own vehicles? Some of you may say, well, what will happen to government's revenue if we start to restrict ownership of cars to those persons who are here on work permits or transient or on government contracts or whatever? Government will have to crunch the figures and see how much revenue will have been foregone in the event that they were to bring in such controls. But we definitely have to do something about it. 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the mornings. You look on the road and there's number of vehicles out there. At one point in time, you could safely leave home at 7 o'clock and you could get where you're going. That is no longer the case. So we have to start looking at alternatives when it comes to vehicular traffic in the Cayman Islands. We cannot continue to build roads, to widen roads, simply just to accommodate vehicles. There are more persons residing on these islands than there are vehicles. So we have to accommodate the people, not necessarily the vehicles as well. We're going to take a commercial break. When I return, of course, the phone lines are open. Welcome your calls. If you now realize that For the Record is back on, call your friends, let them know OC is back on there so you can listen in and call in as well. Please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, he hath founded it upon the seas.
Ms. M. Forbes, J.P., 1910 to 1989. Ms. Forbes operated a store in Savannah for H.O. Marin and Company for many years. He was a great source of help to the community in hard times. On leaving Savannah, he opened a restaurant and a guest house in Georgetown. He was married twice and was the father of one child. He served as a vestryman and a justice of the peace and was a very devout man.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
I need a bank that is convenient for me.
What do you mean?
I need a bank that has easy-to-find locations and plenty ATMs when I need cash on the go.
Oh, well, that's easy. You need to bank with Cayman National. They have 7 customer service centers and 23 ATM locations. The newest one is at the East End Post Office, and I hear there's more to come.
Well, sounds like I need to bank with Cayman National Bank, the convenient bank, because they seem to be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Cayman National is everywhere. Surely they are Cayman's convenient bank.
Cayman National Bank. We're here for you.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Vamp Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vamped Motors, Walkers Road.
The Cayman Pharmacy Group would like to thank the Cayman communities for their continuous support for over the past decade. CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy opened its doors in March 2000. West Bay Pharmacy first opened their doors in March 2004. The Cayman Pharmacy Group was established in July 2007. Throughout the years, our CPG family has provided more than just pharmaceuticals to our loyal friends and customers. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has protected the lives of our medical community by securing the best healthcare advice and pharmaceutical services. To us at CPG, you are more than just a number. So, we are taking the time to say thank you for choosing CPG. The Cayman Pharmacy Group, taking care of your health.
It's Foster's. How about this for a New Year's resolution? Live to eat. Yep, live to eat. Don't just eat to live. Find the balance between going crazy for that indulgently creamy made-from-scratch cake and knowing just how many nuts will make for a good, naturally healthy snack in between meals. Slow down and take in all the joys of food in your life this year and live to eat with Foster's IGA. Follow along for tips and more this year as we live to eat in 2019.
At Foster's Food Fair IGA, we care.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Today is my first day back for the 2019, the year of 2019, and I am extremely grateful and happy to be back on the air to share information with you, to hear from you as well, and as usual to enlighten you as much as I can to those areas and those things that you are certainly interested in hearing. Speaking of traffic, one of our listeners has written and said, good morning. The residents on the eastern side would like a solution to the traffic problem. I would suggest completing the extension of the bypass and place a toll on it. Person says that they would drive the toll road because people aren't going to want to pay, so traffic may certainly be less. They point out that they're currently leaving home at 6:05 in the morning, reaching town by 6:30 to sit and wait until 7 o'clock to leave their child, their daughter, at school. So they have to leave early and just sit early at school. Person says if they leave home at 6:15, 6:20, they're bumper to bumper from Bordentown Police Station to the Bordentown Post Office. They're not reaching Walker's Road until 8 or so. By that time, the bell has already rung, and my child is late for classes. Actually, friend of mine, one of my cycling buddies, Mr. Ada Powell, we were talking about that this morning, about the extension of the bypass, and his suggestion was that maybe they should invite the DART group to be involved in that, because his position was that the DART group, in terms of the road construction, that they do a much better job. I would counter and say that the National Roads Authority certainly have the ability to do roads good also, and do roads well. And they have done that to a certain extent. My beef with the National Roads Authority is that where the DART group has been much more generous in terms of the space that they allow on the roads, it seems as if the National Roads Authority are a little bit more stingy. And I'll use an example, and I'll probably hear from one of my good friends rebuffing this, but I certainly welcome the comments. But if you take the Linford Pearson Highway, for instance, and you look at the size of the lanes, for some reason, I feel that you're much more squeezed in the lanes there than you are on the DART Highway going to Kamana Bay. We have a huge median on the Linford Pearson Highway that I believe that if you were to give an additional 2 or 3 feet for cars for the lanes, it would make it so much more comfortable and easy to drive, especially for us older folks, who, are not like we were when we were young, that we were just zooming on the roads. We feel a little bit more comfortable if we have a little bit more space. So my point with my beef with the National Roads Authority is that they're a little bit stingy when it comes to the lanes. Now, they may retort and say, it costs more, but you cannot put a price on a life or the safety of any individual. So getting back to my conversation with Ada Powell on the DART issue, my belief is that government needs to do it themselves. There are, I'm sure, property owners there in that area, especially from the Newlands, the end of the east-west arterial going all the way up to Frank Sound. I'm sure that there are landowners there that are landlocked and have no access to their property. Of course, government has the right to compulsory acquisition of properties, especially for the purposes of constructing roads, but most governments are reluctant to use the compulsory acquisition simply because sometimes it becomes quite contentious and people don't like that. But what you look to do is you look to compensate those persons who are going to be really adversely affected by it, and work to see what kind of a deal you can work with those persons who, by opening putting a road through there, you're actually opening up access to their property. But I believe that government has the ability to do that, and government should look at doing that. It looks as if the Ironwood project, I don't know where that is at. That seems to have fizzled out. So we cannot and we should not wait for someone else to come along to make an offer. Government needs to take the initiative there. We have one caller. We're going to take that caller. I also have some messages from some of my listeners. Some of them say that they weren't expecting me to hear me until Monday, and they have some comments as well, and I will be reading those off soon as well. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year.
Good morning, OC, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back. You
Thank
do
you.
such a good job.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, what I'm calling about is this road business that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I live by the Linford Pearson Highway. When I moved here, it wasn't anything but bush. But Linford Pearson isn't helping the traffic. The traffic is tied up mornings and evenings. And traffic starts from like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm,
You can see all those buses that go down to the tourist boat. They're the first ones that use it. And then there's also this motorcycle that goes every morning and so forth. But the lanes are too narrow. They are very narrow. I have a friend that visits me. She lives in Jacksonville. And every time she comes, she complains that these lanes are too narrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the medians where you have to merge in, she said that is an accident itself. And she does not like to drive here in Cayman for the same reason. You know, she's used to those highways.
And you would figure that if you can drive on highways in the U.S., that it should be a breeze driving in the Cayman Islands, but it is the exact opposite.
It is, very much so. And I don't know who the NRA, I think, as they say, we need to get Mr. Dart. People complain about him, but I think his highway is much wider. So I don't know if government, can use him, which they're using him anyhow, or he is using them, whichever way we put it. But we need to get something done. And then they came in and they took off by my property. And they said they were going to maintain that. My daughter was here yesterday afternoon, and the traffic we were looking out, and she said, Mommy, we look like we can reach our hands out there and touch the traffic. It's too close. And the little piece of land that they left.
Yeah, I had a question with that for you to ask you if you ever got that sorted out yet. And did you follow up on my suggestion about that quiet possession?
No, I never did follow up on it because that is full of maiden plum bush. Because that's what they did with that before. It wasn't any maiden plum bush there. But now it's full of maiden plum bush, and it's coming right into my fence line. I spoke to Tristan Hyde long time ago before they had started to do anything with it, and he said he would get back to me. Up until now, he hasn't gotten back to me.
Keep calling him.
And Mark Scotland, forget about him. So I really don't know. But if they got it left there, they need to come and maintain it. They need to get rid of those maiden plum trees, and they need to get rid of the bush there. If they weren't going to make what I suggested they should have did, or I think, no, I didn't suggest it to them, but since the lanes are so narrow, they may as well have come closer into my fence and put me a nice block fence there, that they would have space for cars to pass, and then I wouldn't be bothered with having all this maiden plum bush and so forth there.
Yeah, Carl, I'm going to ask you to leave us there because we've reached the 9 o'clock news, so we have to, at 8 o'clock news, so we have to break for that. But please feel free to call back and we can continue this conversation after the news if you so wish. But sorry I had to interrupt there. Folks, please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back immediately after the 8 o'clock news.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Price Right is 7:59.
Priced Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Priced Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Priced Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access. Information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Drivers can expect some traffic snags this morning near the roundabout outside King Sports Center off Linford Pearson Highway as police investigate a multi-car crash. Witnesses on the scene say it appears that 2 cars and an ambulance may have been involved. Traffic leaving town is being diverted. No word yet from police, but make sure to stay with Radio Cayman as we follow this developing story. Trinity College School is giving a Caymanian student the chance to benefit from a full tuition scholarship for the 2019-20 academic year.
The school turned 150 in 2015, and we recommitted to this scholarship program, introducing the Caymanian Scholarship. And it gives an amazing opportunity for a student to experience beyond the islands and see a bit more of the world and also get a first-class education in Canada. Director of Admissions at Trinity College School, Kathleen LeBranch, says representatives will be on hand Saturday through Monday to test and interview interested students. And then I'll be hosting a reception as well on January 8th at the Georgetown Yacht Club, and that will be at 6 o'clock at night. And I'd certainly love to have any interested families looking for grade 9, 10, or 11 up in Canada. Zororo Motumba is the first student to receive the newly named scholarship.
The scholarship and going to TCS has really opened some new opportunities for me. And academically, the school is very challenging, but you have a lot of support from your teachers and students around you. So the scholarship has really helped me in a way of just growing as a student and as a person.
If you're interested, you can email klebranch@tcs.on.ca. And to learn more, check out tcs.on.ca. And a baby girl, minutes after midnight, has been confirmed as the first baby born in 2019 at the Health Services Authority, Cayman Islands. While the mother preferred to remain anonymous, Radio Cayman confirms the New Year's baby was born on Thursday at 12:45 a.m., weighing 5 pounds, 13 ounces. In regional news, Sandals and Beaches Resorts will eliminate all styrofoam from their resorts in the Caribbean starting February 1st. Sandals operates 19 resorts on 7 islands, including the Bahamas, Grenada, and Turks and Caicos. Adam Stewart, deputy chairman of Sandals Resort International, says, quote, "As we enter the new year, it's incredibly important to our Sandals family that environmental sustainability remains a key priority." He goes on to say after eliminating plastic straws, stirrers, laundry bags, and gift shops last year, we're choosing to eliminate styrofoam from our resorts. He says, quote, "We're proud that many of the islands in which we operate are also making this shift to ensure that future generations can enjoy the beauty of the Caribbean." According to Environment America's Wildlife Over Waste campaign, scientists have found plastic fragments, including styrofoam, in 86% of all sea turtle species, 44% of all seabird species, and 43% of all marine mammal species. Now with a check of international news, here's the BBC, who will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News, I'm John Shea. Germany has suffered one of its biggest ever hacking attacks, with the personal data of leading politicians and celebrities being published online. The president, Frank-Walter Steinmeier, was one of the victims. The only party not affected was the right-wing Alternative for Germany. The United Nations has criticised the trial in Saudi Arabia of those accused of murdering the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. A UN official called for an independent international investigation of the killing. France has called up police reservists as part of an agreement with Britain to stop migrants crossing the sea from northern France to England. The region's top government official said police were bringing in off-road motorcycles to patrol the sand dunes. Brazil's new president, Jair Bolsonaro, has urged the government to pass a law that would give security officials immunity from prosecution while on duty. Mr. Bolsonaro, a right-wing former military officer, said there would be no quick reduction in Brazil's crime rate until security officials had such guarantees. The Chinese government says it will host direct talks next week with the United States on their trade war, the first since the two sides declared a pause in the dispute a month ago. The news prompted a cautious rally on world markets. In Thailand, the most powerful tropical storm for decades is pelting the south of the country with rain and wind. At least one fisherman was killed when his boat capsized off Pattani province. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after,
BritK protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after,
visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
BritK, where people come first.
It's a massive decision.
It's a massive decision.
The cruise port is the most expensive capital works project in our history.
With huge social, environmental, and economic effects.
The cost will be borne by this generation.
And the next.
It's time for the people of Cayman to have a say.
To have a say. To be included and empowered.
And to make an informed choice.
The wrong decision will always cost more than we can afford to pay.
We have a chance to be united.
As a people, as a country.
For our heritage, for our environment, and for our tourism.
Get your answers.
It's your constitutional right.
Sign the petition, support the referendum.
Support the referendum, and let's build our future together.
In financial news, shares rose in Europe and Asia today as investors looked ahead to next week's trade talks between the U.S. and China. European shares recouped losses from a day earlier. Germany's DAX gained 0.9% to 10,506 in early trading today, while France's CAC 40 advanced 0.8% to 4,647. Britain's FTSE 100 edged 0.7% higher to 6,740. U.S. indexes, which closed broadly lower on Thursday, were set to recover too. The future contract for the broad S&P 500 index rose 1.2%, while the Dow future contract climbed 1.1%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng jumped 2.2% with 25,626. The Shanghai Composite rebounded 2.1% to 2,514. South Korea's Kospi added 0.8% to 2,010, while the Nikkei 225 index closed down 2.3% at 19,561. In other trading, U.S. crude oil added 93 cents to $48.02 a barrel in electronic trading on the New York Mercantile Exchange. The contract rose 55 cents to $47.09 per barrel on Thursday. Brent crude, used to price international oils, was up $1.05 at $57 per barrel. It gained $1.04 to $55.95 in London. And in currencies, the dollar strengthened to 107.93 yen from 107.67. The euro rose to 1.1410 from 1.1394.
At Kirk's Home Center, we can make your life much better. We got it all together. We got a great deal in store for you. From cookware to stereos, from power tools to plumbing supplies. Yeah, we got the best goods with the best price and a service to make you smile. Kirk's Home Center, we got a great deal in store for you.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Current temperature is 78 degrees. Relative humidity is 92%. Barometric pressure 29.98 inches and rising. The wind is east at 9 knots. Overnight low temperature was 76 degrees. Synopsis indicate a high-pressure system over the western Atlantic Ocean will continue to support moderate to fresh easterly winds and rough seas across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours, with winds gradually decreasing thereafter. Radar images show westward moving isolated showers in and around the Cayman area. Now the forecast is calling for today partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 30% chance of morning showers, and temperatures will be in the mid-80s. Your winds will be southeasterly 10 to 15 knots, becoming 5 to 10 knots by this evening, and seas will be moderate with wave heights of 3 to 5 feet. Tonight, expect partly cloudy to cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers happening over the sister islands of Cayman, Bracken, Little Cayman for tonight, and temperatures will fall to the low to mid-70s. Winds will be easterly 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. High tide will occur this morning at 11:37, low tide this evening at 6 minutes past 6, and a high tide again tonight at 11:44. The sun will set this evening at 5:59 and will rise tomorrow morning at a minute after 7. And the outlook is calling for similar weather conditions through Sunday morning. Good morning once again, and time to take a look what's happening traffic-wise. The incident that happened early this morning, it looks like the roads are clear at the moment. It happened in front of the King's roundabout. Traffic moving steadily on the Linford Pearson Highway. And on Cool Road, steady traffic as well. And traffic is moving along moderately on Edward Street and in and out of Georgetown. Traffic not looking too bad. That is flowing pretty good. And on Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, moderate flow of traffic. And traffic flowing moderately as well on North Sound Road coming from the Butterfield roundabout, heading towards the Industrial Park area. Owen Roberts Drive, no issues there. And from the West Bay four-way stop, traffic flowing moderately. And a little steady traffic coming off of the Linford Pearson Highway on Agnes Way and Bobby Thompson Way, little steady traffic as well. That's what's happening on your roads. Join us again at about 10 minutes after 12. Remember, drive good. Have a good morning. Buckle up.
This health flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
The Basketball Academy may soon come to an area more convenient for your kids. For just about 8 years now, the Academy has been stationed at the First Baptist Gym in Georgetown, and after a huge influx of kids to the program, Technical Director for Cayman Basketball Coach Vudo Garo wants to bring his program to a district near you.
I would like to take the Academy to different districts. So there's a court in Northside. So my next objective is to take the Academy to Northside so the children in Northside can have an academy to attend without traveling down to Georgetown. I will also like to, in the future, take it to other districts that have facilities that we can get the kids to participate. So we'll take basketball to the district and the district coming to Georgetown. So the next area I'm targeting is Northside. The facility is already there. It's just to get the coaches trained to do so. Because that's extremely important, having the coaches for the different age group who can relate to the children.
Right now, the Academy Sport Club is held every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the First Baptist Christian School Basketball Gym. Call Coach Voot at 916-5083 if your kid is interested in joining. The new Academy session starts on January 26th. And in international sports, Manchester City demonstrated substance as well as style as they overcame Liverpool, the greatest threat to their hopes of retaining their Premier League title on a night of searing tension. Pep Guardiola's City side, who made history to win the league with 100 points last season, knew they would need to dig deep into their reserves to beat Liverpool, arriving at the stadium on the back of a 20-game unbeaten start to the campaign.
Initiating system.
For information that matters, for the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrett Connor. My first day back on the air for 2019. I am extremely happy and grateful to be back on the air to converse with you, to listen to you, to share with you as well. I want to mention two notable figures in the Cayman Islands. The first would be the unfortunate passing of Ms. Joanna Clark, a former teacher in the Cayman Islands, but even more close to me and important to me, her involvement in the Scouts Association in the Cayman Islands. And I just want to extend our condolences to the family of Ms. Clark. She will be greatly missed. She has contributed so much to Caymanian society in the teaching, as well as the recognition and the development of young women in the Cayman Islands. Her funeral is tomorrow, Saturday, 2 o'clock at the Red Bay Church of God. We want to give her a great send-off, and I would encourage all of you who have been impacted by Miss Clark's, whose lives have been impacted by Miss Clark's contribution, to please show up and pay your respects to a great woman, a person who thought not about herself, but about others, who gave more than she expected to receive, and we're extremely grateful. Another person is I want to wish a belated happy birthday to the last administrator of the Cayman Islands and the first governor of the Cayman Islands, even if it was only for a matter of a few days, and that is Mr. Former Governor, Mr. Athelstan Long. He celebrated on Wednesday his 100th birthday, and I saw where there were some celebrations for him. He was presented with a gift from his son. It is unfortunate that one of the gifts that could not be presented to him, that I would have loved to see presented to him, would have been his medals that were stolen in a robbery from his home. I believe that some individual or individuals may have been charged with that. At least one individual may have been charged and possibly found guilty as well. I stand corrected as to the results of the trial, but based on news reports, his valuables were never recovered. We know that here in the Cayman Islands there is a tendency for people to go to the pawn shop, I don't know how many of them there are here, to exchange these items for money. Some of them will use them to swap for drugs as well. And if those valuables, Mr. Long's valuables, are still on island, I would impress upon persons who may know about it, or for the authorities to intensify their efforts to try to recover those for Mr. Long. He gave, again, his service to the Cayman Islands, and he's one of the few governors who remained and chose the Cayman Islands as his home, and he was welcomed for that. There are some governors where I know, and you would agree with me, that we wouldn't welcome back, or we wouldn't want them back here. And as a matter of fact, there was one particular one when the government won the election. One of the first things that they did was to inform that governor that he was not welcome back to the Cayman Islands, because he had huge plans to return to the Cayman Islands and probably make his fortune here as well. But Mr. Long is one of those who we certainly appreciated as well. One of our listeners, and this person This family, they're constant contributors, and I appreciate what they contribute to For the Record. And they pointed out that they weren't expecting me back until Monday, so to them it was a special surprise, and they had a few issues that they wanted to raise. First, that no Caymanians were named in the New Year honors. And they point out that perhaps we need to be more conscientious in looking around at those who do so much day in and day out as well. Yes, we certainly do, and that there are many people out there who deserve and should be recognized for those honors. And with the establishment of the local, reestablishment of the local honors as well, we hope that those persons, and we know that those persons will be recognized. Also, they also point out that more importantly, they pointed out the passing of Miss Penny McDowell, and she's pointed out this is a great lady for the persons with special needs. I think she was involved in developing swimming classes and everything for persons with special needs, and they say that they believe that there is a special place in heaven for persons like Miss Penny McDowell. And again, we here at Radio Cayman extend our condolences to the family of the late Penny McDowell as well. But yes, we need to recognize people while they are alive and not after they have passed, because they know nothing about it then and they're not able to appreciate it. If we can name physical structures, edifices, after current members or living members of our legislative assembly who are chosen by the people, why can't we not do more for those individuals who are not elected officials but who have contributed as well, and do it while they're alive so that they can appreciate it? And not only that, that they can express their gratitude to you, to us, for recognizing them as well. Now, some of them may be quite modest and not want to highlight it, but at least let's give them an opportunity. So another commitment that we need to make in the year, for the year 2019, more recognition, more acknowledgement of our own people, especially those who have contributed to the betterment of the Cayman Islands. I think we have phone calls, so let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. I would say welcome back to the airways. We already welcome you back, even though we wasn't really pleased, the Rockhold crew not too pleased with you leaving us at that particular time.
I know you wouldn't even, you turn your head when you wouldn't even didn't want to shake my hand or anything.
No, that shows you how much we miss you.
I know,
but we know that you have other commitments elsewhere that you have to go to, and we also appreciate you going and do that. But,
thank you.
But you is such a great part of us that we can't really happen here. That we can't really do without you, So
thanks.
So welcome back to the airways, and going back on the traffic. Before we go taking away people's car or limiting people from driving, the first thing we have to do, OC, is to put in place an option for the commute to get around.
Mm-hmm.
I think what government should do is to license a proper transportation company where we have some sort of control and regulation over it.
Mm-hmm.
Not these little buses that jump and stop and we have to put an officer at the North Side Road to make sure that they go where they're supposed to go. There's a guy sitting up there all day making sure that happens. We should not have to do that. We license a company. This is the rules. We have a number or whatever in the bus for the public to complain if they do not drive proper, if they play stupid music, whatever, right? That's the first thing we got to do. Put in place a proper bus, and I think it should be done by the government and regulate them. We then have to put bus stops, and we have to put a little, like some sort of little bus stop where they can be secure from the sun, and similar like what the Rotary do, but upgrade it a bit and step it about 5 feet off the road where the buses can go off the road to pick up. But they have to be at that bus stop at a particular time. You can't just go there anytime.
Yes, yes. So you have a scheduled bus service.
Bus route, and you can only stay on the bus stop X amount of time, and you have to go. You can't sit until you get the bus full. You have to leave. That's how it is in Barbados. I spent a lot of time in Barbados, and that is how it is. You could be running real fast to catch that bus, and the bus driver could see you, but because his time is up, you have to go. You have to catch the next bus. So that's how that should be. Then we both have a really good friend, Craig Merrin, that could saddle just about everybody on this island with a bicycle. We need to get people back on bicycles. People that are jumping off the plane and coming here and jumping in a car. I know instances where people 38 years old worked in the financial center in England and never drive a car in their life until my good friend Orrett McLaughlin teach them to drive when they jump off the plane. Okay? So they have lived all their life without driving a car. You come here, we're going to put you on a bicycle. The bicycle, you're not going to like this, but the bicycle will have to be licensed. It will have to go back to the old days when we had to pay a license for a bicycle. And to get it licensed, you will also have to get a little certificate paper from Craig Merrin. He will inspect your bicycle and make sure that it's roadworthy to be on the road, brakes and light on the bicycle. Okay. And
so what would be the purpose of the purpose of the licensing? Because other than revenue for government, you're looking at the roadworthiness of the bicycle.
The roadworthiness of the bicycle. Okay. That need to be properly done, and then I heard you mention about revenue that will be lost because of individual not being able to own a car. Well, we wouldn't get that much to accommodate that, but we'll get something back. So everybody would have to license a bicycle on a yearly basis. The bicycle will have to be licensed with a little certificate from Craig saying that the bicycle is okay to be licensed. Okay?
Okay. Craig is going to have to pay for this commercial this morning,
Okay. So that is okay. And the work permit people will not be, if they're working for a company, you're allowed to drive company vehicle within company hours. I don't want to see you going and sit them in the company vehicle now, Okay? So that I think would eliminate or say a lot of the traffic. I know where there's an apartment, a huge house, with umpteen amount of people living there, and there's 17 cars to that one little apartment, one house. It's a house, not apartment. Wow. House. 17 cars. I got a photo. I even got a photo of the garbage out. They throw it outside the door, outside by the road. So that will have to be the first thing. And building new roads, not opening up the Eastern District with new roads, not gonna work, bro. Because what can happen when you get by hurlers?
Yeah, the bottleneck could still end up at some point. What needs to happen, I think, Lord Graham, is that that extension onto Walker's Road, that little small roundabout on the end of Linford Pearson. I don't know what's happening from a legal standpoint with the owners of the horse stable there, but that needs to be resolved.
Well, if the Prince of the East Linford Pearson was still in power, he would have put a bulldozer through that long time. When he did that, Dr. Roy, he would have put we need those type of mentality back in the government. The Warren Connor, the Jim Borden, the Haig Borden, the Linford Pearson, those kind of people. A lot of people don't see. Dr. McField once told me, people know what they want, but they don't know what's good for them. Okay? So we need strong leaders to make those moves. Okay? That's really what we need. But Dillon Road, opening up the bypass will give a lot of local people good access to their property, which is a good thing. But that's not going to do much with the traffic. All they're going to do is get people from East End to Herders much quicker to stand in line to get past.
Good point. Good point.
Okay?
Lord Graham, thank you very much for that. I'll see you this evening. Anything on the menu? Are we eating out or are we eating in? Cooking it?
Renard, our good friend Renard Markson is catering today.
Oh, okay. Simboco Pizza. Thank you, Lord Gray.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Take care. Ms. Susan, we want to take a break now, and then if we have any callers, we will accommodate those callers immediately after this short commercial break.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, formerly known as Professional Pharmacy, would like to thank the Cayman communities for their loyal support these past 18 years. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care. Thorough background checks and follow-up consultations is only the beginning. Your safety is our concern. Our staff are respected healthcare professionals whose job requires careful and precise calculations. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, where we prepare to provide exceptional care. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we care about your health.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Bant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation. System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record, with your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Orrett Connor. First day back on the air for the year 2019, and it is my pleasure to be here, and I am extremely happy to be here as well. I think we have one caller on hold, Miss Susan. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Welcome and a happy new year to you, Steve.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you as well.
Yeah, and also Miss Susan. I hope Radio Cayman realize what a blessing they have with her.
Certainly, they certainly do.
Oh, see, I'm not making a long speech about anything in particular, but there's two things that have given me great concern last year, and I hope things change this year. Because many times that seems to be cut short. If you're talking about respect for Her Majesty the Queen or the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. First, Her Majesty. You know, when someone, say a policeman does something to you in the name of the Queen, or they have all this authority, you know. But if they're doing some corrupt deed in the name of the Queen, you go to the chief of police, you go to other officials, nothing is being done, which I think is highly disrespectful of the Her Majesty the Queen, who they're representing. And I hope something will be done about that this coming year.
So, caller, let me interrupt you there for a second. So you don't believe that we have sufficient entities in place to address complaints that are directed towards those persons in official capacities, for instance, the police. You don't believe that you have recourse to make complaints and to have those complaints addressed?
I tried some of those, Lucy. And I could even tell you, even just one of the cases I've had.
Okay, I don't want you to get too specific.
I want to get that where a car ran into the side of my vehicle, right, on a private road. The officer calling there, who seemed to be a good friend of the sister of the when I ran into my car, they had pictures of my car was almost against the fence, which they drew a sketch of me running into the back of the other person's car, which was completely wrong. There are pictures of it, and the damage to the other car was in the front right way they ran into my car. They neglected to say the person moved the vehicle before the police came. They ignored an eyewitness report of someone's kid saw everything that happened, and they charged me for careless driving.
Mm-hmm.
After going to court for about 5 times, not being able to get my voice in to say anything to defend myself.
You didn't have a lawyer, or you weren't allowed to represent yourself?
I didn't have a chance to say anything. All the time they said, come back again.
Oh, so you mean you actually didn't get the opportunity to go before a judge?
You went before the judge.
Mm-hmm.
All the time he said was the government not offering any charges against me anymore.
Okay.
I say, and they never did have anything against me.
Mm-hmm.
And what about insurance that I made him fix his car? Or said insurance would take care of that. I mean, anybody should know that if you don't charge someone for something, their insurance is not going to pay out anything. You know? And that, I mean, report.
No, I disagree with that. Insurance, once you have a credible claim and they accept that claim, the insurance will pay irrespective of whether or not there is a court case. Sometimes, as a matter of fact, if there is a court case, you may not then get a claim honored.
No, I'm just trying to examine. I mean, I went to Commissioner, wrote a letter to the police about it. I went to complaint committee. Nothing being, and I can tell you there's more cases like that, which is gross injustice against me. I mean, you know somebody, you know this Clark Christian, right? And I can tell you there's cases like this in the public transport, in the hospital,
I don't want to go into too much detail because we have another caller on hold, so we want to be respectful to that caller's time as well. Caller,
I just want to look into these things this year, right? The other thing I want to say, the southern two thing just to mention, is that as a Christian country, I've called in several times. I'm not trying to preach anything. I'm just trying to bring to the attention of the public something written in the Bible that they say is the Word of God. And they do not want to even hear it. I'm not preaching my opinions or anything. All I'm trying to do is just point out things in the Bible that is affecting us today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's good for you to point them out. People don't necessarily have to agree with you on that, and I'm not sure whether or not you're looking for people to agree with you or not. But it's always good to point those things out. But caller, I'm going to ask you to leave us there. I know that you feel that when you raise this subject that you're being cut off every time. But like I said last year, we really have to recognize the amount of the limited amount of time that we have to allow each caller to express their views. So I want to thank you for that, but certainly feel free to call back if we have the time. Next caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Happy New Year to you.
Very good. Same to you, Mr. Oski. I was listening a little earlier, and it's not a very important matter, but I'd like to share it with the public.
Okay.
The lady that was having the maiden plum disaster on her fence line.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I only found this out maybe a few months ago because I had maiden plum trees that I needed to get rid of. And for some reason, one day I was up at the agricultural department and something just said, just ask. And I said to the lady at the counter, I said, they don't make anything to, like, remove maiden plum, do they? And she says, oh, yes, they do.
Mm.
Yes, and for not very much money, I think the liquid, the stuff to remove the maiden plum might have cost me $12.
Okay.
And you spray it on the maiden plum tree and it kills it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because maiden plum is something that if you even take a machete and start chopping at that, you can end up in the hospital.
Oh, yeah. Some people just have to be near it, not even touch it or anything, yes.
Maiden plum trees are very, very, very dangerous. And, you know, all through Cayman, all through history, everybody knows all about maiden plum. And it is very difficult to get rid of it, and it's very dangerous to have anywhere where there's children around it. So if you know the lady and you can get back to her, tell her to go to agricultural department, and they sell a product specifically to get rid of maiden plum.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if you recognize it. Caller, the property that she was actually speaking of was a property that is adjoining hers. I believe it may be the remnant from what government may have acquired. So it's the remnant of that, and I believe it may be government owned, because I was suggested to her at another time that she should maybe clear it out and acquire it by quiet possession by continuing to maintain it over a period of time. So while we appreciate and we understand, that the maiden plum can be controlled, I think in her case, if she were to spend, she would end up spending that money to maintain government's property. That's the only problem. But certainly knowing the fact and knowing that there is a remedy for the maiden plum, that is a good thing, because you also know that it is better if you what we used to call stumping the maiden plum. That means getting a pickaxe and getting right down to the root and taking the whole root out of the ground. That really is the best solution. So do you know whether or not this treatment, this remedy that you get from the agriculture, whether or not it kills the roots as well?
Apparently, it takes care of the whole tree. If
okay.
you get it on the tree, spray it on the tree, you will never have that tree back again.
Okay, I got to try that.
As we all know, maiden plum can be very, very difficult to get rid of. It's very dangerous to deal with it. So, regardless of whether government owns a property or she owns a property, it being on her borderline is very dangerous for her and her family. So, at least I'm just putting it across to the airwaves that there is a product to get rid of maiden plum.
And that is good to know. And I want to thank you very much for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
And that's through the Department of Agriculture up in Savannah.
Yes, Agricola Drive in the Lower Valley. Thank you very much, caller. You have a great day, and continue to listen to Radio Cayman. We're going to take a break now, folks. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
It's 2019, and you know what they say, new year, new me?
Yeah, Bobo. For me, it's new year, new car.
For real? What you thinking of buying?
The new RAV4 from Avant Motors. It's one of the safest compact SUVs out there with enough room inside, which is good for my family and convincing my wife we need this. Plus, it's fuel efficient, fun to drive, and on top of that, it's on sale too.
Yeah, and I hear it's one of the best-selling SUVs on the market.
Cause you don't gotta spend more to do more. That's why I'm gonna get mine now, while they have a new stock to select from.
Do more in your RAV4. Save thousands on the all-new 2019 RAV4. Test drive yours today and see why the RAV4 is a best-selling SUV in Cayman. Available only at Vant Motors, Walkers Road.
We are Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up in the morning. Praise time. Praise time on Radio Cayman.
Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. Open the eyes of my heart. gonna walk them golden stairs, 'cause I know my Jesus answers all my prayers.
Praise time.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Praise time.
There's nothing to go back to.
Give me Jesus in the morning.
For the God of the mountain is still God in the valley.
Shout with joy to God, all the earth, sing glory to His name.
Praise time. Praise time.
Jesus in the morning, yeah.
Weekday mornings from 6 until 6:30.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio this morning, so it is the People's Show again. Following up on the topic of traffic, this listener writes and says that I am from a large UK city, Manchester, that has a bus system that makes car ownership basically unnecessary. Buses are numbered according to their individual routes and operate on a strict schedule so that you can get to and from any part of the city knowing exactly which bus to take and exactly how long the journey will take. A major cause of our present traffic congestion is due to the absence of such a system here in Grand Cayman. It isn't a case of choosing to own a car. Our guest workers have to own a car. It's that simple. There's a necessity as opposed to it being a choice on their part to own a car. That is what the person is saying. Says they go on to say, believe me when I say that the overwhelming majority of them would choose not to own a car if there was a reliable bus service that would guarantee departure and arrival times. And let's not forget bus-only lanes as well. Good points raised by the caller. And I would add to that and say that the Public Transport Authority here in the Cayman Islands need to up their game. They have to up their game and provide rational and reasonable solutions to the public transport system here in the Cayman Islands. Now, we heard Graham Rankin earlier, Lord Graham. I have to address him properly, otherwise I will be disciplined down in Rockhold this evening for that. So you heard Lord Graham earlier talk about having a sort of a company, but his suggestion was that it should be controlled by government. You look at other jurisdictions and maybe government should submit a request for proposal, I think it's called RFP, for persons, individuals, companies to come forward with a proposal for a proper public transport system. Bus, we should indicate we want it to be buses, not overhead tram cars or something like that. If it's buses that we want, that should be done. Right now, what we have is we have a free-for-all. While the Public Transport's Licensing Board will license drivers, I would venture to say that there is not as much enforcement out there as we need to have. You hear stories about people being driven and taken to Frank Sound and dropped off there when the bus should really be going all the way through Frank Sound, Queens Highway, and around East End. Now, on Sunday mornings, I must say that there are some buses who actually traverse that route and who actually do it, but there are still complaints that some drivers are not doing it. So, because we have these individually licensed drivers, they're all doing their own thing now. If you were to receive and accept a request for proposal for a proper public transport system to be established. Some people will complain that it's going to squeeze the little man out, the individual owner, bus drivers and those that own their own, and they're likely to see less take-home pay if they're placed under, if they're forced to go under a company that has been established. But I'm not too au fait with the what is it called again? The Land and Sea Corp. I don't know whether or not the bus drivers, because it does say land and sea. I don't know if the bus drivers, the public bus drivers, are involved in that corp. But the same way that there is annual funding for the Land and Sea Corp, maybe we need to look at some subsidization of the public transport system to make it economically viable for those drivers. And at the same time, we need to address the type of driving that they do on the road. Some are extremely courteous. Some of them are extremely discourteous as well. Instead of pulling over to the sides of the road to drop off and pick up their passengers, they're halfway out in the lane and forcing you, virtually closing off one lane until they have been able to transact their business. So those are issues that need to be taken care of as well. But again, I put this challenge out there to the Public Transport Board. Up your game. Offer reasonable, effective solutions to our traffic problems. I believe if it isn't part of your remit, it should be a part of it, and you should be obligated to fulfill it. Up your game, please. We need it. We cannot continue to address the issue of vehicles on the road by simply continuing to expand and to build new roads. And to add to that, this listener has said, you are correct. The CIG cannot ignore the traffic problem any longer. Every day there are people moving to Cayman to take up employment. Because vehicles are so cheap to buy from Japan, these transient workers are quickly obtaining vehicles to drive regardless of their economic status. And before I read the rest of it, I'm going to add to that. Not only are they allowed to bring cars in, but there is no limit, I don't believe, on the number of cars they can bring in. So the word on the street is that many of them are doing it as a way to earn money, a little side business, bringing in cars, maybe keeping them for a short period of time, if at all, and then selling them because there is a lucrative market out there for vehicles. The reason there is a lucrative market out there for vehicles is because we have no controls in place over the ownership nor the number of vehicles. Now, I know that we brag about being a democratic society with a big D, capital D, not a small d, but at some point in time, the whole issue of being a democratic society and at the same time our obligations to our environment and everything else, we have to strike a balance between those two. I want to finish what that caller wrote. So the person says that because vehicles are so cheap to buy from Japan, these transient workers are quickly obtaining vehicles to drive regardless of their economic status. And I should also point out that it seems as if now Japan is not really the choice. I think it might be Taiwan or someplace else that they're getting supposedly quote-unquote better cars at better prices as well. The person says this has to stop. The CIG has to put a proper public transportation system and do away with the current third world bus system we have. If people can rely on safe, comfortable, and dependable public transportation, they would use it. And I want to thank that writer for those points as well. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. O.C. Lovely to hear your voice.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Happy New Year to you.
Yes, sir. Well, I wish you a God-blessed, healthy, and successful New Year in which you receive sufficient.
Thank you very much,
You
sir.
don't need any more than what is sufficient.
Yep, that's true.
And on topic with what you're talking about, an old-timer once told me a good idea, badly implemented, becomes a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
If ever that was true, it's what has happened with our public transportation system. It has become politicized. People get called up and they give so-and-so a license, whether they be Caymanian or whether they be expatriate. We know the interference from the higher-ups in this island is legendary. and they can deny it, but it's corruption at the core. And we have the potential to set an example for not just the third world, but for the first world, in that the way our public transportation system was conceived, and I don't know who drew it up, but there was a chance there for us to have a good system that served the needs of the Cayman Islands, because we have small pockets of accommodation separated quite a ways. That's what gives a lot of problems in garbage pickup. The districts, because there's no planning, they throw the business developers through planning out the window, and everything is by discretion. So you pay enough money to the right person, you get what you want. And we needed this type of system that we got because it tended to satisfy servicing people regardless of where you live, down in Newlands or whether you were in some of the other areas that are quite far from the main road, relatively far.
Mm-hmm.
And it was tailor-made to us. It was sort of like a Uber idea. But the policing of it has where it's fallen off the rails. Those that are responsible, which starts with the minister, you want the responsibility, take it, do something about it. And they have failed to ensure that it operates the way it should. With all the technology today that we have, people could see and track each vehicle with its location. When they don't complete their route, you would see it on the Google map.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he turned around halfway of where he was supposed to go. And you will see that they have not done it. And then the policing and the discipline to hold people you contracted to do something. That's the license you wanted. That's the license you got. No, you do it. You operate on time. You operate on schedule. And if you don't, we can see exactly what's happening to you.
Yes.
And all that technology is there on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
No beginning of anything. You go in other jurisdictions and you can take your phone and you can see exactly what time the next bus is estimated to be to you. Within 3 to 5 minutes, that will be there. So it was a good idea, the way it's structured, but it has not been managed and regulated the way it should have been in accordance with the law. And that is where I believe we need to focus. If you get a public transportation system that's operated by the government, believe me, it will be worse than what we have because they will not regulate it properly. That's where it comes back to. Planning, pension, health insurance, you name it. All these things. And that's where the problem is. It's in the regulation and compliance with the law is so lacking. And that is a message that I would give on the subject of public transportation.
Okay.
Comply with your contractual arrangements for whatever your routes are. Put the necessary things in place to know where people are going. And increasingly, especially in the tourist areas, I observed that tourists are standing up there and using the public transportation system. So the business is there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would just encourage you to bring on your show the minister. Start at the top. he's the one responsible. And bring, or she, whoever, I don't know who is assigned to nowadays, whoever has it, bring them there.
Okay.
And the proper administration, and if you can't get through there, then bring the governor there, because the governor's responsibility is to ensure that there's good governance and compliance, and that people, whoever's employed to do something, does what they're supposed to do.
Yep. Carl, I'm going to ask you to leave us there. We have to go to our 9 o'clock news. Thank you very much for that, and all the best for 2019. Folks, please stay tuned. We have one more caller on hold. Just want to say to the caller, this is headline news, so it's very quick. As soon as we return, we will take the 2 calls that we have. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Radio K-Man. Radio K-Man's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. Drivers can expect some traffic snags this morning near the roundabout outside King Sports Center off Linford Pearson Highway as police investigate a multi-car crash. Witnesses on the scene say 5 pounds, 13 ounces becomes the first baby born in 2019 at the Health Services Authority Cayman Islands. The facility confirmed with Radio Cayman that the girl was born at 12:45 a.m. on Thursday. The mom has preferred to stay anonymous. The Democrat-controlled U.S. House of Representatives has voted to end a partial government shutdown, but the move looks certain to be voted down by President Donald Trump. Mr. Trump has said he will reject any measure that does not provide funding for his proposed U.S.-Mexico border wall. New House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has branded the wall, quote, an immorality. The new Congress is considered the most diverse in history, with record numbers of women and women of color. And hundreds of German politicians, including Chancellor Angela Merkel, have had personal details hacked and published online. Contacts, private chats, and financial details were put out on Twitter, which belong to figures from every political party except the far-right AfD. Data from celebrities and journalists also appear to have been leaked. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. No guests in the studio this morning, but we have lots of calls, and that is what we like on this show. We like the participation from our audience. So let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. Happy New Year.
Good morning, Mr. For the Record.
Good morning, Doc. How are you?
Good, and Happy New Year to you and to all your family and your friends and everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I wish that 2019 will be more successful than the 18 that you had, which was a very successful year, I guess, on the radio, at least that I know about.
Thank you. Thanks, Doc. And, of course, a lot of that has to do with your participation as well. That's helped to make it the success that it was.
Thank you, and continue to bring the information to the people that you have been doing. It's very, very important that you continue this educational process that you started For the Record to be. I would like to say that I think I was one of the board members on the first phase of the East-West Arterial, and that that dealt with the traffic problems in the island. Hello?
Yes, Doc, we're hearing you. We're hearing you.
Yeah, and that process, I don't know if you remember, they had all of these rubber tubes across the roads and everything. Everywhere you went, they had rubber tubes across the roads. And
I think they call them traffic counters.
Yeah, traffic counters. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was from all that data and information that our planning engineer, Mr. Howard, Edward Howard,
Mm-hmm.
he's now acting
Director, yes.
Yeah, director. He was the deputy director. He was the planning engineer at the time for the NRA. Well, all that data that he collected, he could tell you at any given time of the day how many cars per second would be passing through a particular junction, a particular area, and he could anticipate for the next 5 or 6 or 10 years if the traffic continued, what you could expect.
Mm-hmm.
From that data, the board then decided that if we are going to go through with the Linford-Pearson Highway and the East-West Arterial Way all the way up to the Queens Highway, that we need to put in a national ground transportation system. Edward Howard was given the job to do that, to plan for a national ground transportation system. It's in place. And when he unfolded it to the minister then, I think it was Arden McLean, and all of the members of some members of the cabinet, and he unfolded, and he, in that system, he had outlined every bus stop from Little Bluff on the Queens Highway all the way to West Bay and all the way to the Ring Road around Georgetown.
Okay.
Because that's how it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And he calculated how many bus stops it would be and at what time buses would be arriving at each bus stop and everything.
Okay.
But like everything else, those things are not very important to some people, especially to the elected members of the government.
Mm-hmm.
That plan is probably sitting with the NRA on its shelf someplace in the NRA's office.
I think in the government they call it file 13.
Yes, file 13. Now, I was so interested into the road system that I asked the NRA to send me to University of Birmingham. Every year, the University of Birmingham, under the auspices of the World Bank and the other big one, the World Bank and the whatever other one.
International Monetary Fund, is it?
Yes, that's right. Puts on a course for road executives, and it's called road management and road financing. And when I came back from that course, I discovered that although we had a roads authority law, and we had a roads fund section in the law, there was no actual roads fund set up.
Mm-hmm.
The roads fund it's a system within the roads authority, within all the country's roads authorities laws, that funds go in there to maintain and to build and to maintain and to build and to expand roads.
It's a dedicated fund and it's ring fenced.
Fund. It's independent from the government fund.
Mm-hmm.
And when I came home and I looked at the roads law here, the roads fund was only a name, and the money they collect from the road fund goes into the central government.
Mm-hmm. General revenue, yeah.
For something else. The roads fund is and under the law was for the tax on diesel, tax on gasoline, money from the infrastructure fund, money from that you pay to get your car registered, money that you pay for your driver's license. That would go into a roads fund that would be controlled by a roads fund board. And the National Roads Authority Board, when they want money, they would go to the roads fund that would fund the road systems. But that doesn't happen in Cayman. Of course, people don't follow the law in Cayman. The law doesn't mean anything. All the law is in Cayman is words on official paper. To some people, that's what the law is, words on official paper, but the words don't mean anything to them. So there's a system. All you have to do is to get people to sit down and to implement the system.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to the tail end of your last conversation before this one, but a caller before said that there should be a PPP, public-private participation.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a public-private participation with the government and some public entity to put in the bus system, a bus system that I could go down out of my house and catch the bus in the morning and go to my office and come back and catch the bus even. There's no reason why I should be driving in town and parking my car in front of my office all day. And then Saturday, the road when I go home in the evening. Sometimes I have to wait till all 7, 8 o'clock at night before I go because the traffic is so bad.
Yes, yeah.
You see?
Yeah.
But
Yep.
we don't care about that. We are not nation builders. We are not. Our politicians have never been nation builders. Other people in other countries sit down and talk about how is the nation going to survive for the next 50 or 100 years, and what kind of infrastructure we're going to need. What kind of housing we're going to need for people. What kind of sewer system we need for people. What kind of bridges we're going to need to bring people from one place to the other. We don't do that. We just go. We just get elected. And we just go, we sit down, collect the money, and then we leave it to some foreigner to come in to do all the things that we have to do for ourselves.
Doc, I'm going to ask you to leave us there. We're going to try to accommodate one more call before we go to the commercial break. But I want to say that I have plans. I noticed that some of the entities that we have scheduled, I don't know if there's lack of planning, a little reluctance or whatever. But when they fail to come on, we're going to keep those slots open. And so you can look for my calls because, we have no shortage of people who want to talk and want to listen to you as well. So I just want you to stand by, just like the former president of the UCCI, Mr. Roy Borden, said to the minister, I'll await your call. I want you to await my call as well, Doc. Let's go to the next.
For the record.
Thank you very much, Doc. Let's go to the next caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Very happy New Year to you and your family. Good. Listening there to what the others have had to say, especially Dr. Marquis a while ago. Realization is that we're at a sort of crossroads now, but I just like to say, it might not seem important to many, but when you say we, who are we talking about? Who are the we? Because we've got to realize that there's, 130 nationalities living here now, and the generational Caymanians are a minority. No one can deny that fact. So we have to be conscious of the we that we might try to satisfy with the different things, and that's one of the problems I see that's happening. It's a thing that maybe we didn't figure on. Some warned us, certainly did. And what was happening on the change from 40 years ago to what our economy, the two pillars is. We know we always had the tourism. We know it would expand and bound upon us. That's something we knew we were handling Caymanians from a long time ago, from in the late 30s, 40s, and so forth. And we knew it would get bigger and bigger. But the new thing, the financial world, is with us, and we see the problems we have every day. We're fighting a battle, and as the Minister of Financial Services sees, it's never ending. It will continue. There'll always be pressure on us because that is the path that we have chosen. The Fleming warned us about that. No.
And we know, and caller, we know what the end game is as far as the OECD and everything else. They keep pushing because at the end of the day, their intent, they may not say so, they may say otherwise, their intent really is to destroy the industry.
I am not of that opinion, but then again, my opinion doesn't really matter that much. A lot of people may disagree with it, but I see it as because one of the main things is with the majority of people not, and we have generations who have grown up not paying direct income tax, so they don't understand what it is when people are paying their direct income tax and possibly thinking and wondering if the owners of their giant factories and corporations they're working for are paying their fair share, and they think that they're hiding the money here and in other places. We know this. That's no secret. So we have to put ourselves in those people's position also and understand that they're pressing their elected representatives in their republics or in their Commonwealth countries or whatever, or over in the European Union. So we have to put ourselves in the position of the ordinary man there. With the road thing, we know we have much, much too many cars for the road. We know that. We also know, as Dr. Maxfield pointed out, there is a plan. There is a plan there. To make the plan workable, of course, is the finances. And we know, we look at Bermuda, they have a limited, very limited amount of cars. They're in the same business we are in. They have a wonderful public transport plan. I've spoken to people, and over the years, people have said it on the radio. And I've spoken to Bermudans about it, and also, and it works. It works. They make sure that it works. But they have one thing that we don't have. And every other country in the world has it. And we seem to think that we can manage without it. And I have disagreed with that with anyone. And with the greatest accountants, I'll disagree with them, and I'll sit face to face with them and tell them, we don't have any form of direct income tax. That's why we have the major problem of health insurance controlled by private sector, and the pensions controlled by, and that's a lot of money that could have been in government revenue. Anything mandatory must be paid as a tax to the government.
But caller, if I could interrupt you there, it would be more money going into the government's coffers, but as it stands now, it doesn't seem as if money is a problem, or the shortage of money is a problem with government in terms of their ability to provide.
Yes, but Mr. O.C., if we are to take money from one part of government funding and say this is to take care of the indigent health plan for the, we know it's a considerable amount of money. Mm-hmm. And we can't keep adding, because if you're growing anything, if you're doing sufficing with your plans to provide infrastructure for the people, you're going to need more money as it goes along. 40 years ago, it was nowhere near this kind of budget. But we have quadrupled our population. So we have to plan for, like Maxfield was saying, what will happen in 10 years, what will per second, you're looking at how many cars. This is the point I'm making. A fair and just tax, direct income tax, where you're paying for what you work. You're only paying according to what you work, and it works in other countries. Yes, they all have problems. Yes, they all have debt, but that is a sure thing, because if people aren't working throughout the whole country, then you have a serious problem. We'll be back to worse than what we are. But by people who are earning enormous salaries here and pay very little, when you think about it, the little man is paying a huge amount who's earning $6 an hour for health insurance that he can't, but it's mandatory, that he cannot afford and does not satisfy his needs at all, and it's thousands. And the same thing with the pensions, paying into mandatory pensions as used by the private sector. They're making it and controlling it from up there where it's sent up to be put on stocks and bonds and blue chips and red chips and all kinds of poker chips. It should be here in the government's coffers since it's mandatory. There would be the money to provide for the health system, which is very, very serious, very important, and very costly, and to provide for the pensions to be paid out on the needs assessment unit and so forth. They would be where the funds would come from, like it is anywhere else. Bermuda does it. They have about 25% of their revenue, and theirs is slightly higher than ours. And it works with them.
Caller, I want to thank you very much for that. Have a happy new year, and continue to call in and to listen to Radio Cayman. We have to take a commercial break. When we return, I have several WhatsApp messages as well to read, so we're going to close the phone lines off at this point in time to give me an opportunity to read those, to share those with you as well. So please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Since March 2004, West Bay Pharmacy has kept their doors open to the local communities, even before, during, and after Hurricane Ivan. At West Bay Pharmacy, our staff provides so much more than pharmaceutical excellence. From the moment you walk through our doors to completing your cash out, our staff will have put your healthcare concerns at ease. We would like to take this moment to thank our loyal friends and customers. To us at West Bay Pharmacy, our patients are our primary concern. We provide thorough background checks and precise calculations to ensure your medical safety. Thank you for being a part of our family and for choosing West Bay Pharmacy, where we care about your health.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio K-Man.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We have no guests in the studio. We've closed the phone lines off because we want to share with you some of the other messages that we received during the course of the show as well. This person says, good morning. I need this to be heard on the talk show today, please. I have heard it said time and time again that children and the elderly are very important in this country, but it doesn't look so to me. I have two very elderly people that are being taken care of by children and family services. Their services had to be reviewed early in December. I took the paperwork, but 2 pieces more were required. I took them in also every 2 weeks. Their card gets a top-up, but it hasn't been so for quite some time. And all the information required was personally handed in. Now I have come to find out that persons dealing with this will be off until Monday. I'm sure she could have passed it on to someone else or her supervisor. Yes, I'm very thankful that the NAU is helping them, but at the same time, for weeks now, every other day, I personally have to be calling friends and family members with my heart full and crying out for them to help me with $25 here and there so I can get something for them to eat. This should not be happening in such a Christian community we all talk about every day, our beautiful Cayman Islands, and for seniors. It more than breaks my heart. But you know what? I trust God, and I know that He will make sure my good friends and family members who make sacrifices to help me put a little food on the table, help me to put a little food on the table will be blessed. So this person is not, they're extremely thankful for the help that they're getting from the Needs Assessment Unit, but because an individual was off during the holiday, they were unable to get those their needs fulfilled during that period of time. Another listener has written and said, good morning, Mr. Connor, Happy New Year, and a prosperous 2019. Speaking of traffic and vehicles in Cayman, I totally agree with you about work permit holders not owning a vehicle. We have thousands of work permit holders, and some of them own multiple vehicles. I have been reliably informed that these people lease and sell their vehicles, of course, illegally. Therefore, government losing out big time. Again, something that needs to be pointed out. This other person says, in response to the writer complaining about persons bringing in cars are being crab-like, trying to keep Mother Caymanian buying a car overseas. The persons who have these car lot companies are being greedy, and they are too expensive. Imagine these companies paying $5,000 as for a car and selling it for $15,000. Leave the Caymanians who try to help themselves buy their cars overseas. Stop being greedy. I think the issue is not about Caymanians importing cars, but of course, if you're importing cars for the purpose of conducting a business or selling them, then you should have yourself properly licensed to do so. What the issue was relating to had to do with persons who are here on a transient basis on work permits with no guarantee that they will be able to remain forever, even though there are many people who think and believe that once you get here, that you're here forever. And in some instances, that actually proves to be the case. But the whole idea of someone coming to the island and being able to import a vehicle for their own personal use is something that needs to be addressed. Now, if you don't want to restrict that person from owning a vehicle, then maybe you have it that the vehicle has to be purchased on the island. They cannot import a vehicle. You cannot import a vehicle in your name unless you can establish that you have the right to remain and reside permanently in the Cayman Islands. That may be one of the provisos that you want to have in place. We heard sentiments raised from other listeners who said that they believe that work permit holders would prefer not to have to own a car, and if there was a proper functioning public transportation system in place as well. And not to mention the fact that there are many unregistered, uninsured, unroadworthy vehicles on the roads of the Cayman Islands, thus putting those persons who are legally entitled to use the road because they have a properly licensed, properly insured and current insured vehicle, but they put them at the risk of those persons who are on the roads without a properly insured or properly licensed vehicle. And you need only to be involved in an accident in those cases. And if your insurance coverage isn't such that it covers your damage, then you have to go through civil proceedings to try to recover. And we know, not being critical of the courts, but we know how long that process can take. Now, we see that there are genuine efforts being made by the courts administration to expedite cases, to sort cases in such a way that, you have a traffic court, you have a civil court, so that there is not a backlog. But in any jurisdiction, the wheels of justice move extremely slowly. So we know what that can create for people as well. So we hope that one of the priorities of the government will be to address the traffic situation, and not simply addressing it by only widening and building new roads and expanding, but taking a multi-pronged approach to the traffic problem, including the importation of vehicles, including the development of a functioning, well-functioning public transport system, including proper driver education so that we save lives and we avoid personal injury to individuals, something that is way over the top in the Cayman Islands now as well. So I haven't had an opportunity to address the Premier's message for the Christmas and for the New Year, and to look at what the government's priorities will be and what he's been looking forward to as well. But we will certainly get an opportunity to address those as well. We will be back on the air on Monday, and we expect to have someone from government here. I believe we will be discussing government scholarships, but I will check the schedule to see exactly what is there. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension, For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Ebanks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. And Cayman Pharmacy Group, with locations in West Base and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.